pairing. Hello, good evening, IFNG, to all our participants in Zoom. To our 30 participants, hello. Please type in what's your profession and where you're going, or where is your current location. And for our Facebook viewers, please tag your friends. And if you want to join our Zoom link, just make sure you're a member of IFNG, just like our page, and send us direct message so I can send you the link to our GCs. And plus, I would like, sir, to say hi first to my co-admins, Gladys, Marvin, Manuel, and Michelle. And to our all the members who needs to pass IELTS, I think our topic for today is very important. It's task to writing. So, and tonight, we are bringing you the best when it comes to writing as well. So let's welcome Sir Brian from 9.09er. Hello, Sir Brian. Good evening.
Good evening, guys. Welcome to my class. And hi to all of the people who are watching this over on Zoom and also to our Facebook Live participants. Good evening, everyone. And this is a very important lesson. I'm just looking at all of your comments. And today we're going to talk about IELTS Writing Task 2. A lot of people are very interested to find out what IELTS Writing Task 2 is all about. And I guess for a lot of people, this is a source of confusion. A lot of test takers who are sitting the IELTS actually have difficulty in particular with the writing component, be it writing task 1 or writing task 2. And if we're going to look at the national average for IELTS writing, we would be able to tell that this is by far the hardest examination to get the good score at. So today we're going to have a free lecture on the IELTS writing component. And hopefully if we still have time, we would be able to also have a free demo on how to write for IELTS writing tasks if you're interested to watch something like that. Okay, so if you have friends who are also nurses and who are also planning to take the IELTS, particularly if they want to go overseas to English-speaking countries like the UK, or they want to go to the US or Australia, New Zealand, Canada, they might be interested as well. So you can share with them this live meeting, and you can also invite them over to IFNG's page so that they can become members as well of this growing community where you find free resources and also free lectures on the different subtests of the IELTS and sometimes other English examinations as well. All right, so I'm just looking at all of the attendees from Facebook, and I'm also sharing this with our students at 9.09er. If you have friends whom you also want to invite over, you can share with them this link. Just a moment, guys. All right, so I think we can get started with tonight's lesson. Once again, my name is Brian Martin Sioson. I'm one of the lecturers of 9.09er IELTS Review and Tutorial Center. I'm a trainer of IELTS, OET, and the PTE, and I've been doing this for the past 11 years. For your information, I got a band 9 overall band score in the IELTS and 9 in every one of the components of the test. And in particular, I got 9 even in the writing part of the test. So I think I have not really the authority to teach this, but quite a lot of experience with the writing examination to tell you what should be done and what shouldn't be done in your examination. So for today, we're going to talk about what things will help you to wing your IELTS writing task 2 as a writing component of the examination. Okay, so let's begin by first talking about what the examination is all about. IELTS Writing Task 2 asks you to write about the given topic, and your answer should be a discursive consideration of relevant issues. Let me just clarify what this is. In your examination for IELTS, you're not expected to be the most intelligent person, right? You're not expected to be the smartest guy out of the lot. But you are expected to write a discursive consideration of relevant issues. When we say discursive, you're supposed to discuss. So even if you don't really have a lot of arguments, maybe 2 or 3 arguments to write, you're not really that smart. As long as you're able to discuss and give reasons or perhaps some examples about the arguments that you have raised, you're capable of getting a good score in your examination. I believe the common problem among people who are taking the examination is they're being too smart when they're sitting the exam. So a lot of people who are taking the examination want to impress the examiners with a lot of arguments. But at the end of the day, when you put so many arguments, you're not able to discuss all of them. And what happens to your writing task is it becomes enumerative. It's as if you're just writing all of the reasons and you're not able to elaborate any of those reasons at all. And that leads to failure in the test because again, what's required by IELTS is a discursive consideration of relevant issues. And let's move on to the second clause or the second phrase, relevant issues. So a lot of people fear taking the examination because they believe they can actually receive a question that they are not knowledgeable about, or they're afraid that they might get a question that is too hard or too controversial, maybe a political question or maybe a religious question, and they might not have the answers for that. Now, let me reassure everyone here that in your examination, that is not going to happen. You're not going to encounter questions that you're unfamiliar with because the questions in IELTS are supposed to be of general readership. So it means to say that no matter where you are in the world, you should be able to relate to the questions that are given in IELTS. You're not going to be asked very controversial questions or issues that are only pertinent to a particular territory or a particular country. So sometimes, contrary to popular belief, current events do not come out in IELTS. And sometimes you get more of the general topics and not really what's happening around the world, because the questions that you're going to get in the examination are typically relevant to all people in more than 500 testing centers worldwide. Okay, so now let's move on to the second bullet right here. Or the third bullet, I stand corrected. Candidates should read the task carefully and provide a full and relevant response. So we have 2 different requirements in the examination to get a good score in the examination. First, you have to provide a full response. And second, you have to also write full and relevant response. Let's talk about relevant first. Relevant means to say that your answer is related to the question. You're not off topic. You're not writing about something that is not asked in the question. And a lot of people tend to think that maybe the reason they're not getting the best scores in IELTS is that they're writing off-topic responses. But we have asked plenty of examiners time and again about this current situation here in the Philippines, at least for IELTS. And examiners would always tell us that Filipinos are very smart. They do not write off-topic responses. Rarely do candidates in the Philippines write off-topic responses. So that's actually quite surprising because the common belief here in the Philippines is that the reason people are not getting a good score is they're actually writing irrelevant responses. But that's not the case for most of the examiners in the Philippines, at least when we have asked them so many times. What are they pointing out? They say that Filipinos are instead writing incomplete responses. So we are not writing full responses, we are writing relevant responses. It's like when we are asked a couple of questions, we answer one question and we fail to answer the second one. So it is very important for you to understand the question thoroughly and to read the questions multiple times over until you're able to understand what the question is all about, so that when you produce an answer, You're able to hit all of the questions right to the head and be able to provide a full response in the examination. Because again, a lot of examiners tell us that it's not really us writing off-topic responses in the examination that causes candidates to flunk the test, but instead it's related to us not answering all of the questions in the test. All right. Now, I need to point out, because this is a very controversial issue as well for all test takers of IELTS, especially for those who are reviewing by themselves. When you look at samples online, they're written in a very creative fashion. The style of writing is leaning on the creative side, or maybe sort of like a blog post or a feature or editorial writing piece. And while that might work in the examination, it is not the tone that is expected of you. You're supposed to write in the academic or neutral manner. Academic or neutral. You're not expected to write a lot of idiomatic expressions in the test. You're not supposed to decorate your IELTS writing task too with so many of those very technical or high-level English words, because they are not welcome in an academic essay. In a neutrally designed essay for a professor to read. So a lot of people write, for example, hooks. You know what a hook is? You know, you usually put that in the introduction part of your essay just to catch the attention of the readers. And that really works when you're writing feature editorial or whatever, or maybe you're writing for a magazine or you're writing for a newspaper, because the hook will catch the attention of the reader and would want to continue reading what you've written. But take it in the context of IELTS. If the examiner doesn't like your introduction, or if you don't have a hook that draws the examiner into your writing, does that mean to say your examiner will not read your paper? No, because that's the duty, that's the responsibility and obligation of your examiner. So even if you just write something very simple in your introduction and you do not anymore spend 5 to 10 minutes crafting a very interesting introduction, you can still get a good score in the exam. Trust me, I know, because I've taken this examination a couple of times. And in fairness, I haven't really scored a lower grade than 8.5 in the writing test of IELTS, both for the academic and the general training module. So my scores were like 9 and 8.5, not any lower. So writing with simplicity will help you not only to make the process a lot easier for yourself, but also achieve higher scores in the test altogether, right? Okay, so here's a question from Cherry. Cherry's asking over Facebook, nauulit po ba yung questions or yung topics sa IELTS? Yes, because as I've mentioned a while ago, questions in IELTS are actually general in nature. And so there is always a tendency for questions to be repeated in the test. Not necessarily because these are the common questions that come out in the test, but because there's only a limited range of topics that can be asked in IELTS that will qualify under the classification of a relevant topic to all people across many countries around the world. It should be globally relatable. And that's why there are some topics that keep on coming out in the test and people feel that they're repetitive. But it's actually the case that, in the test administration dates that you have, there aren't really a lot of topics that can be asked. And so some questions are perennially repeated in the examination. Okay? Right. So I have talked about what the examination is. Now let's move on to talk about the overview of IELTS Writing Task 2. So you are expected to write a minimum of 250 words within the span of 40 minutes. Actually, in the test, you have 1 hour to budget between writing task 1 and writing task 2. If you want to work on writing task 1 for 15 minutes only and do task 2 for 45, that's fine, as long as you're able to accomplish both tasks within 1 hour. Even if you're taking the computer delivered examination, that's how it's going to go. You can jump to writing task 1 if you want to, or go to writing task 2, do it first, and then spend 45-15 or 50-10, or if you want, the ideal amount of time, 20 minutes for task 1, 40 minutes for task 2. Your writing task should be at least 250. However, we suggest that you write up to 300 words or 320 if you want to get there, because shorter tasks will be penalized in the examination. Remember as well that writing task 2 is more important compared to writing task 1, because writing task 2 is going to share 66.66% of your total test score for writing. And that's 2/3 of your test score. So if you do not finish writing task 2, or if you submit a very substandard writing task 2, do not expect that you're going to get a good score. The tendency is for you to get a very low grade for IELTS writing, since it's going to actually compose a greater proportion of your test score compared to writing task 1. Okay, now I'm supposed to talk about a lot of other things, okay, but before I proceed, right, I want to emphasize that in your examination, you will be graded according to a set of criteria. I feel this is very important for everybody to understand, that in your examination, you're graded based on a set of criteria. And sometimes you're doing things that do not really conform with the criteria, or maybe you're doing things that will not help you to elevate or increase your test score per criteria, or you might be doing something that can ultimately pull down your test score for one criterion. So I want you to understand what the criteria for IELTS writing task 2 are, so that you would know how to design your IELTS essay to address all of the criteria of the test. Now, I do have some questions here, and you guys, I want you to ask questions, because this is your opportunity to really ask questions. And this is a free session. You don't pay anything for this. So if you have any questions, just pop in your questions through the chat box or the comment section on Facebook, and I will try to answer your questions. So once again, please share our live meeting to all of those with all of those people who are also sitting the IELTS, particularly those who want to learn about IELTS writing tasks. So here's a question from Joanne in the Philippines. She's asking, hello sir, good evening po. Ask ko po, may bumabagsak po ba sa IELTS? To answer your question, theoretically or technically, nobody really flunks IELTS, for the reason that when you receive your test score, there's nothing that's indicated there that tells you whether you passed or failed the exam. You only get band scores, individual test scores for each one of the four subtests, and you also get an overall band score. There's no stamp on your test result form that says you passed or you failed the examination. Now, the problem here is there are requirements in certain countries that you need to fulfill. So for example, if you're going to the UK and you need a straight 7, except for writing, I think, in which you can get a 6.5. If you don't hit those scores in the IELTS, then that's going to mean to say you cannot apply to that country. So yes, some people actually consider that to be a fail, but it's not to say that IELTS gives you a pass or fail score, at least for the academic and general training module. You just need to make sure that you're complying with, or you're meeting the standards that are imposed by the countries that you're applying to. So it means to say in IELTS, it's not the institution, or it's not really Cambridge or IDP or the British Council, the testing center, that tells you that you have cleared your examination. It's actually the institution that you're applying to, or a school that you're applying to, the university that you're applying to, or maybe the registration body or the country or the embassy that will set the standards for your examination. So to answer your question, IELTS does not really give pass or fail grades, but you can flunk the examination if you don't hit the targets of the countries you're applying to. And if you're going to ask me, sir, what if the baseline is at 7.0? We need 7, at least for the writing test. I'm talking about the writing test. What are the odds that I will get my desired score of 7.0 in the writing examination? Well, 2017 statistics Am I right? Or 2019 statistics tell us that only 8% of the total test taker population gets that score. So to share with you your odds, you have 92% chance of not getting 7 in the IELTS writing exam and only 8% chance of getting that score. The odds are not in your favor. It might be better if the result that you require is at 6.5. Probably it will be close to 50%. So it's like 48 something percent. So you get a higher chance of getting your desired score for the writing examination if your target is 6.5, but at 7 and higher, then the odds are not really in your favor. And that's why we're having this class, because I want everybody to understand how you're going to wing your exam, how you're going to really pass your examination and be able to get your target scores the right way, the ideal way, right? So you don't get confused. Okay, so here's another question from Pristine over Facebook. I'm reading this, okay? Hi, Sir Brian, good evening. If discuss both views and give your opinion on type of question, yung opinion po ba should be in the intro or the conclusion? Lahat po kasi sa ng view sa ibang type ng questions nasa intro except for this type of question based sa mga nababasa ko pang writing na iba. Okay, that's a very good question. Actually, it doesn't matter whether you put it in the beginning or at the end. My personal take on this is that you have to write an opinion, whether you put it in the beginning or you put it at the end. Now, logically speaking, however, if you're going to ask me how I'm going to attack that question, I'll put it at the end. Because if you put your opinion right before you discuss the two views, you already have your pre-imposed biases, right? So what is the point of reading your arguments for the other side of the coin if you have already decided beforehand, right? So what is the use of reading that entire elaboration or discussion about that other side if you have already made up your mind in the first place? So you want to give that sense of thrill or suspense on the part of the examiner and write your opinion towards the end so that the examiner will not know until he or she gets to the end whether you are for or against one view and which one you have chosen. Good question, right? So now let us proceed. Okay, I have been talking about the criteria for grading. I want you to understand this better. Now there's the public version of the band score descriptors that you can find on the British Council website, and you can also find that on the Cambridge website. And all you need to do is to download that and read that thoroughly to understand what composes or what comprises a 7.0 work for the IELTS. But I'm going to just very quickly run through the 4 criteria so that you know what they are. We have task attainment, coherence and cohesion, vocabulary and lexical resource, and grammar. Each one of these 4 will share equal proportions to your total test score, and the average will be your overall score for IELTS writing task 2, and that's going to be 66.66% of your total task score. Let's get started with task attainment. Task attainment, from the word attainment, is actually your ability to respond to the question. Actually, in writing task 2, we call it task response. So it's your response to the question. The better the quality of the response, the more elaborate your reasons are, the higher the score. So again, you don't need to write a lot of reasons, but you need to make sure you support your reasons with maybe supporting arguments. And perhaps you might also want to put some examples to further fortify or strengthen your position. That's the first thing. Number 2, you need to make sure you have a clear position throughout the response, right? Most of the questions in IELTS will ask you to write your opinion, whether it be agree or disagree, give your opinion. To what extent do you agree or disagree, give your opinion? Open-ended questions with an opinion clause. For example, is this a positive or negative development? Or discuss both views, give your opinion. Even the question, do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages, would require that you put a position or a clear stand. So if you're the kind of person who doesn't want to write very strong opinions, you want to stay in the middle, you like to sit on the fence, then you're not going to get a good score in IELTS, unfortunately. You have to be very outspoken in your IELTS, and you have to make sure that you write a position. You cannot just sit on the fence. You cannot stay in the middle. If you say that both views have their advantages and disadvantages, and it's up to the reader to decide which one is better, you are not complying with the requirements of task response, and definitely you're not going to get a good score. That is for sure. Say goodbye to your 7.0 in IELTS, because writing a clear position is required for you to get at least a 7.0, at least for the majority of questions that you're going to get for IELTS writing task 2. In addition to that, okay, you need to be able to expand your arguments, okay, to build on your arguments, to extend your arguments. So again, you're not going to enumerate the arguments, you're going to extend them, you're going to support them with reasons and examples so as to get a better score. Later, probably if we have time, I'm going to share with you the process of crafting a writing task 2 sample so that you will be well versed with the strategies that you need to employ in your actual exam to get a good score. Excited for that. I hope everyone will participate if we ever do that later. So give me a heart if you're willing to participate later. I'm going to show you how it's done from start to finish. Sounds good? What do you think? All right. Now, that's task response. And of course, you have to write at least 250 words and meet the minimum requirements of a writing task 2 essay. Now, let's talk about another component of the examination that you will be graded for. That's coherence and cohesion. Coherence actually talks about how you paragraph in your examination. You know what, guys? It is very important that in your exam, you don't mix things up. Okay, so if you have one argument, you do not want to mix it with another argument. You want to put a separate compartment for it. You have to make sure that it's separate from all other arguments that you're writing. Otherwise, it will be very scattered, and your thoughts and your organization will both be affected, right? So you want to make sure that if you have one idea, you write a separate paragraph for that. The minimum number of paragraphs you should be writing in your examination should be 4, and the maximum should be right about 5 paragraphs. So 4 to 5 paragraphs on average. 1 for your introduction, about a couple for your body, and 1 for your conclusion. You can write 2 to 3 paragraphs for your body, by the way, just in case you have a lot to write. But I think 2 will be enough for your body to write at least 250 words. If you want to get to 3 because you have a lot of arguments, then that's fine. But don't write 6 to 10 paragraphs just to prove the point to the examiner. That's not going to be very healthy. And it's going to be very time consuming. Remember that you have to make sure you finish your examination on time. And if you're writing a very lengthy essay and you're putting a lot of arguments and maybe a lot of paragraphs in effect, you will be consuming so much of your time. And writing a very lengthy essay is not really a very good idea because it's harder to edit a longer essay compared to a shorter one. It will take more time and more energy on your part, and it will be harder to control your grammar if your writing is very, very long. Okay? So perhaps that's one thing that you need to understand. Now, the other component of this particular criterion is cohesion. And cohesion is your flow, how your paragraphs and your sentences are linked to each other, how they seamlessly flow from one paragraph to another. If you're writing, for example, let's see, transitional device such as moreover or furthermore or in addition, or whatever else. That means to say that you are able to comply with this requirement because you're linking your sentences and your phrases together. But let me just emphasize for the benefit of this class that transitional devices aren't the only way by which you can show to the examiner that you have very good cohesion. In fact, there are other strategies that you can employ to get a good score for cohesion. One example is using pronouns, particularly your relative pronouns. So if you know your relative pronouns like which or who or where or when, or when you're using demonstrative pronouns such as this or that, those or these, you're going to get a better score using them in the test, okay? Rather than just relying heavily on transitional devices. So mix them up, a little bit of your pronouns, some of your transitional devices that will help you to really maximize your score for cohesion. Another example is using conjunctions. So if you know your conjunctions like and or while or but or because, since, as, whereas, these kinds of words will also help you to link your sentences together, not only making your sentences more complex, complying with the requirement of grammar, but also at the same time, more cohesive. All right, so that's going to help you to really increase your test score for the cohesion aspect. All right, thank you for all of the hearts, by the way, to those people who are posting hearts and who are giving me a heart as well on Facebook. Thank you so much. Now let's move on to vocabulary and lexical resource. And I think this is very controversial. I always tell this in class, it's very controversial. Vocabulary and lexical resource here in the Philippines is understood differently from how it is supposed to be understood, because Filipinos love words. Do you know that in the 4 criteria that I have mentioned, vocabulary is our best asset? Do you believe that? Or do you find that unbelievable? Yeah, studies show that here in the Philippines, vocabulary is our top asset. You might be surprised, but our average score for this criterion, according to a 2017 study here in the Philippines among BC or British Council test takers, as mentioned in the British Council Writing Forum, is 7.0. Yes, you heard me right. That's just average. So it means to say a lot of other people are getting higher scores for vocabulary than a 7.0. And then people keep telling you still to use big words, highfalutin language, technical words, idiomatic expressions, and all of that. But in fact, they don't really benefit you in the test because in the first place, your English is already very much advanced. The fact that you've been listening to me for the past 30 minutes and you've understood every word I said means to say that your vocabulary is sublime. It is absolutely proficient, if not, advanced, right? You're able to understand everything. So it means that your vocabulary is within the same level as my vocabulary, yet you feel you're still inadequate. I feel that is the top problem in the examination. You're adequate, but you don't feel confident that you're capable of getting a good score. You feel that your vocabulary is limited, so you want to use more. You want to impress the examiner with words that are not common because you feel that common words aren't enough. When in fact, the average scores, and numbers don't lie, the average scores in the Philippines tell us a different story. It's 7.0 for vocabulary. Why are you worried about your vocabulary? You tend to use a lot of big words in the examination and sometimes you don't know how to use them. So you misuse words and in effect, that leads to deductions in vocabulary because you are inappropriately using words. So we have range, yes. You don't want to repeat the same words over and over again. You want to use synonyms for some of the words that you tend to repeat multiple times. But at the same time, okay, you also have appropriacy, which means that your words must be used appropriately in the right context for you to get a better score in the test. I believe the best measure of your English ability when it comes to vocabulary, for this matter only, is when you're able to use words correctly and not when you're able to use idiomatic expressions. Because tell you what, idiomatic expressions can be memorized, right? But your appropriate use of words and word combinations cannot. Examiners time and again will tell us that collocations, these are words that blend well together, right? When you use them together, for example, if you use something like severe and widespread poverty, you're going to get a better score for that because widespread goes with poverty, severe goes with poverty so well. They blend so naturally. If you're able to use those collocations in your examination, you get a better score than when you use idiomatic expressions. And trust me on this, because I have never used idiomatic expressions in my IELTS papers, but I still got 9 and 8.5 in my real exams. So take it from me, no idiomatic expressions at all for the entire 300 plus words that I've written in both exams and still got flawless scores and one perfect score for the writing test. Take it from me, you don't need them. Drop them. You don't need them. Collocations are more important because these cannot be memorized. These are the words that will show that you have close to natural proficiency with the use of vocabulary. Idiomatic expressions are memorized, and so they're not the best measure of your vocabulary range. Okay, here's a question from Grace. Grace is asking, pag tinitingnan kita, sir, na-inspire ako. Parang ready na ako mag-exam bukas, sir. Thank you for that very positive comment, right? Icebreaker. Okay, right. So last we have grammar. So grammar is actually a problem for a lot of Filipinos. Do you agree? Give me a like. Do you agree that grammar is a problem here in the Philippines? What do you think? Is it really a problem among Filipinos? Give me a like. All right. If you don't think it's a problem, give me a heart. Wow, amazing for those people who have excellent grammar. Well, I think this is a problem in the examination, not necessarily as problematic as not being able to respond to the question completely, but it is a problem. Not a lot of people have perfect grammar, but here's my point. Have you seen some of your friends before who took the examinations like the IELTS or any other English examination for that matter, and they cleared the examination even with poor grammar? You know some friends, right? You know that they're not really good in English. You know that their grammar is not very strong. How on earth did they get good scores in IELTS? You might be wondering, right? Well, our average for grammar is around 6. Not really stellar, but not bad either. And how do your friends get 6.5 or 7 in the test? It's very simple. It's mathematics. If they get good scores for task attainment, coherence and cohesion, and vocabulary and lexical resource, even if they have poor grades for the grammar aspect, these scores offset the low grammar grade. So they still get very decent scores. Some people get 8 in task attainment, 7 in coherence, 7 in grammar, and 6 only in 7 in vocabulary and 6 only for grammar. And they get a 7.0 average still. So what I'm trying to point out here is you have to be a very strategic person. All right? When I say strategic, you're not the kind of person who's heavily relying on your language ability. You're also thinking of how you're going to address the other components by which you're going to be graded. And you're compensating for what you're not good at. Because nobody is perfect. Do you agree? Nobody's perfect. Like, everyone makes mistakes. Even experts in the English language make mistakes. No one's perfect. I think everybody will agree. So give me a heart if you agree. Nobody's perfect. But you would actually see the beauty in a person if they are playing to their strengths. You know, maybe you are naturally not a well-spoken person, but you look good and you're trying to look your best all the time, presenting yourself to other people. Or maybe you don't look good, but you're a very kind-hearted person. So you're showing that to other people so that you get appreciated as well. Examiners look at your paper as a whole and not really nitpick on every single mistake that you commit. So don't think that the examiners are like that. They look at your paper and ask themselves, has this essay been able to communicate the message it wants to communicate with me? And if yes is the answer, even if there are grammar errors there, they can actually give you scores that are very high for the other aspects, especially if your writing is very clear. Right? So if your writing is very clear, it communicates the message you want to communicate, even with some stray errors here and there, examiners can grant a very good score to you. All right? And you're not even expected to be perfect to get a 9. Trust me on that, because that's actually written in the criteria for grading, that rare minor errors occur as slips. So yes, you can commit errors as long as they're minor slips. You're not repeating the same mistakes. They're not systematic errors that get repeated all the time. You can still get a 9. Because even authors or native English speakers commit errors in grammar, right? Trust me on that. So I hope this helps you to have a better understanding of your IELTS writing task too, because I want you to open your eyes and not be blinded by what a lot of samples you'll find online would tell you, right? And would instruct you to do, because it's not all that difficult. You just have to make sure that you're able to respond to the questions effectively, that you're able to organize your thoughts and write them in clear paragraphs, that you're able to use a wide range of vocabulary to showcase your full extent and breadth of language proficiency. And even if your grammar is not so strong, try your best to edit out some grammatical mistakes and maximize your potentials when it comes to grammar. And definitely you'll ace your examination. If you're thinking of writing something, before writing that, ask yourself, will it help me to increase my task attainment, coherence, and cohesion, vocabulary, and lexical resource and grammar? If not, then discard it. Don't write it. Don't put it in your essay. It's just a waste of time. So every time you write something, you should be thinking of the criteria for grading, so that when you step out of the room, when you walk out of that testing room, you know deep in your heart that you passed the exam. Isn't that a good feeling, guys? You walk out of the room knowing that you're confident you got the right score. Because when you read your entire sample, you were able to attain task attainment, coherence, and cohesion, lexical resource, and grammar. You know for a fact you passed the exam, and you're just waiting for the results as a form of formality. Because that doesn't happen to everyone. Some people walk out of the room not with the confidence, but with the fear that they might not get the right score. So they keep on praying and praying and praying for a miracle to happen, because they don't even know what their level of performance is in the test. They don't understand the criteria for grading, right? That's the best feeling, that you walk out of the room confident that you got the right score. Okay, all right. So here are some questions. Joanne is saying, hirap ako mag-construct ng sentence. Okay, there are classes that can help you to increase your potential when it comes to sentence construction, and particularly grammar classes, like knowing what an independent and dependent clause is, or perhaps also understanding the sentence construction patterns will help you to really optimize your performance when it comes to sentence construction. It is something that will probably take some time to learn, but with practice, you can master it. Okay, you don't need to be absolutely accurate with all of the sentences you're writing, but you have to, as much as possible, know how to construct them, right? So here's another question from Candida. Sana all nakaka-9 sa writing, claim ko na po. Why not? You know, contrary to a lot of people's twisted belief, I am very happy when my students perform really well in the test. So when you get a very high score, I don't, and we here at 9.09 or don't feel threatened. We feel very happy for you, because we have been instrumental to your success. So if somebody gets a 9 in writing, like what happened a couple of years ago to one of our students who got 9 in writing and in speaking, and 9 as well in reading, if I'm not mistaken, 8.5 in listening. So if you get those scores, we'll be so proud of you, because we know that you have learned a lot and you've absorbed as much as you can with the lectures that you've attended. And nothing makes me happier than seeing my students succeed. It gives me a sense of fulfillment knowing that I have been part of that success and I have helped them to achieve that score in the examination. So why not, right? Aim for the top scores. Why not, right? Okay, so Gus is saying, Sir, nakaka-boost ka ng confidence kasi since I started reviewing, na-realize ko ang bobo ko. Oy, no, don't think that, right? Later on, I will make you realize that you're not bobo. No, I'll make you realize that the ideas you have, the ideas that you can generate, they're enough. They're sufficient for you to get a good score in the test. Okay? All right. Sige. Ayan. 315 daw yung live viewers natin on Facebook. Whoa! Shout out naman to our viewers on Facebook and all of our Zoom participants. Shout out sa inyo lahat. Thank you so much for supporting me. Sige na, let's go na to the writing portion, right? So that you will understand better this entire thing. Are you ready, guys? We're going to be writing. Yan. So support naman dyan, guys. Give me a heart and share nyo na sa friends nyo, di ba? Share this link with your friends. Who knows? Maybe you'll be able to help a friend. Post this on your wall. Who knows? You might be able to help a friend. Okay. Hinaubusan po akong lagi ideas. Okay, sabi ni Cheryl. Kaya nahihirapan ako. Oh, Cheryl, I have a message for you. You don't need a lot of arguments. You just need a couple. I'll make you understand that. Because sometimes you're pressuring yourself to write more arguments when in fact you don't really need to. Sometimes you're forcing yourself to think beyond what you can actually write, but you don't need to. Like, you know, it's extraneous to think of so many arguments. I'm going to teach you how to simplify that. Okay? Achievable po ba ang 6 in 3 weeks? Yes, kayang-kaya yan. With the right guidance. Of course, right? With the right materials and a lot of hard work and dedication, right? So we have seen some of our students get really high scores in the test in just 1.5 months or 1 month. Some students of ours got 8 or 7.5 in the writing component in just 1 month or 1.5 months. So it's really possible. You just have to put your mind into it. Okay, all right. Ready, guys? So do you have a sheet of paper? Oh, we have some people here from Australia, right? So some people are listening from overseas. Tell me where you're from, guys. Can you type on the message box where you're from? I want to know where you guys are from. Mahirap daw makakuha ng band 5 so 1 week. Hoy, 1 week is so pressed for time, no? But you can actually, your requirement is low at 5. So just make sure you complete your exam. Okay? We have some newbies here. Can you tell me where you're from? You can type on the message box or the comment section on Facebook. All right. So up next, we're going to do the live writing demo. So I'm going to show you how this is done from start to finish. Are you ready, guys? Okay. I'm just going to use my Microsoft Word. Microsoft Word. Right. So I'm just going to use Microsoft Word for our essay writing for today. So ready? Okay, so I'm looking at the Facebook live chat, or no, not really the live chat. It's the comment section. Please participate because I will be getting all of the arguments from you. I shall not be producing my own, so I expect that you would be participating because yeah, the ideas will be coming from you, right? So please type your arguments and help me as I write the sample, okay? Right, so I'm just gonna share my screen. Okay, so you guys, just a moment. I'm sharing my Microsoft Word. Okay, there you have it. Yup. We're still live on Facebook. If you have friends whom you want to also attend this session, please share with them this meeting link, okay? Or this Facebook live feed. We have 331 viewers on Facebook. Hello, guys. Welcome. All right, okay. Yan. Kala ko magpapa-live selling ako eh. Okay, so let's go. The question that I have chosen for you is a very controversial question that has just recently come out in the exam, and it's about nuclear technology. So they say, okay, some people say that nuclear energy is the best source of energy, okay? Right? Yeah, best, yeah, energy source, okay, for all countries, okay, worldwide. Do you agree or disagree with this view? Give your opinion. Do you like the question, guys? It's difficult. Yes, it is difficult. And I actually chose a difficult question to challenge you guys. And I want you to share with me what your arguments or what your thoughts are regarding this. Of course, I can't do a live poll because I only have how many participants on Zoom? I have only 47 participants on Zoom. So what I'm going to do is to ask you to vote, okay? Whether you agree or disagree that nuclear energy is the best energy source for all countries worldwide. So you just have to tap the heart button if you agree, and the like button if you disagree. Okay, so again, heart for agree and like button if you disagree. Let me know what your thoughts are. Do you think that nuclear energy is the best source of energy for all of the countries worldwide? I'm seeing a lot of hearts. Okay, I'm also seeing a lot of likes, but I'm seeing more hearts than likes, I guess. All right, so it seems more people agree that nuclear energy is actually the best energy source, but some people are disagreeing. Does it mean to say that if your argument is against nuclear energy, that means you're wrong? No. So in the examination, what matters is that you're able to defend your side. It doesn't matter whether you go with the popular opinion or you go against the grain. What's important is that you're able to write arguments. Okay, so I'm seeing more people agreeing. This is very interesting. More people are agreeing. Okay, so that's fine. But I'm going to talk about the views for the opposite side first, so that you will also understand that it's not wrong to disagree. So yeah, so I'm seeing some people who are disagreeing. All right. Okay. Right. So more people agree, really. But what are the opinions against nuclear energy? Right? What arguments might you have against nuclear energy? Let's go and start with that. Right? So one is nuclear energy might not be the best in all countries because some countries are actually prone to accidents or mishaps that can affect the nuclear power plants. An example would be the countries around the Pacific Ring of Fire, because we often get hit by really strong earthquakes, right? And that can cause a meltdown, right? Also, there's a lot of nuclear waste that's generated from nuclear power plants. Although we can also say that there's a lot of waste that comes from coal manufacturing, or no, not really coal manufacturing, but energy generation from coal and other dirty sources of energy. There's also the corresponding nuclear waste that is produced by nuclear power plants. What other things might you have for nuclear power plants, against nuclear power plants, right? Yeah, they're very difficult and expensive to dispose. So that's correct, Angela. Okay, right? Yeah, they're radioactive, not pretty safe for people, right? And if ever, there uh, happens to be a fault in the nuclear power plant, it can affect the population at large. Like, a lot of people will be affected. But that is not what we're going to write about. Okay, what we're going to write about now is why it's good for all countries worldwide. And I want you to share with me what your reasons are. So I'm gonna create a table here. And this is what I usually do in class, whether it's paid lecture or not. This is what I teach. All right, when you're writing arguments, you don't just write arguments, you also write the reasons behind your arguments, and you also write some examples, and you also answer the question, so what? Okay, so this is how you're going to write in your examination to make it really very effective for the examiners to digest what you're pointing out. Okay, now what are, you know, some people are saying it's very expensive to build nuclear power plants. That's correct. It can also be a security threat. That's correct, especially if there's a war and they target your nuclear power plants. That's going to actually cause a total disaster to a country, right? Okay. And yes, thermal pollution from wastewater can affect your marine life, especially in a country that is heavily reliant on the marine resources, like the Philippines, right? We are an archipelagic nation, and we have a lot of bodies of water, and we are heavily reliant on our waters, right, for our natural resources. Okay, right. So good arguments here. Let's look into the arguments for nuclear energy. Why is it good if you have a nuclear power plant in your country? What could be the possible advantages of this one? And why your country is choosing this? Okay. So some people are pointing out that when there's nuclear energy or nuclear reactors, the cost of electricity will be much lower. Yeah, okay. So lower energy cost. Okay. What else? No brownout. Brownout is blackout, my dear. No brownout. Okay. So what do we mean by that, right? So yeah, it's probably a more stable source of energy that can meet the power needs, the requirements or demands of many countries. Especially right now, right? I think right now we are so heavily reliant on power. Am I right? I think everybody will agree with me that right now, because of technology and a lot of electric powered equipment, we are heavily reliant on energy, and we can't afford to have a blackout, right? Or we can't afford to not be able to supply all the places with energy because it's very, very important. Any other arguments you might have? Yeah, pollution levels will be lower, especially if the country like the Philippines is very much reliant on coal because or fossil fuels to generate energy, because that's not very sustainable. Okay, very good. So it's a cleaner source of energy. Yes. Okay. It's reliable. That's I think what I used here. It's a stable. Let's also put that word, reliable. Okay. A reliable source of energy. Okay. It's efficient. Yes. Now you're giving me a lot of arguments. You don't need them. See, you're actually producing more than what you require. You just need a couple and you will be able to write already maybe 250 and over in your exam. It's just that you are forcing yourself to write more than what you are capable of writing. And that actually brings about a lot of problems in the test. So you want to make sure that you just think of a few arguments and then you expand them. All right, so let's start with lower energy costs. Why will your energy cost be lower if you're using nuclear energy? Why is it possible for countries, or in particular power companies or electric companies, to lower the cost of energy that they're distributing to the public? Why? Why is it that the consumers or the people who make use of energy actually pay less if there's nuclear energy or nuclear energy is being harnessed by a country? Yeah, because compared to other power sources, okay, nuclear power plants or energy, no? Other sources. Okay, nuclear power plants are able to generate an abundance, as you've mentioned, of energy. Who's that? Who said abundance? Mihara. Okay, right. Okay, so generate an abundant supply of energy, right? Okay. Can you give me some examples of that? What particular energy sources are not able to create so much supply? Or can you tell me like countries, maybe examples of countries or nations that are able to reduce the price of their energy just because they have nuclear power, right? Yeah, or maybe can yeah, so compared to other sources of energy, so let's put there some examples. So coal, natural gas, yeah, coal, solar, maybe we could put hydro electric. Okay, I can also put hydroelectric right there. Okay, right. And then the examples, you're giving me some examples. So Japan, right? Finland, right? What else? What other countries? Ukraine and Russia. Okay, Ukraine, right? Ukraine is heavily reliant on nuclear energy. What other countries are able to reduce the Korea, South Korea, right? South Korea, right? So like all of these countries have lower power costs, okay? And what will be the result of that? What will be the result of that, guys? If, for example, France actually, no, but what will be the result of that if people are paying less for energy consumption? Yeah, considering that these countries require heating, no? So they actually need a lot of energy, but they're still able to charge lower power costs, okay? The USA, let's put the USA right there, okay? USA, the United States. All right, the USA, right? So what will be the impact of that? What will be the result if people are paying less? Okay, compared to somebody has an open mic, so I kindly turn off your microphones, guys. All right. Okay, thank you. All right, so if the power cost is much cheaper, what is the result of that? Okay, so lower cost of living. What can you do with the money that you're able to save? All right, so there you go. So the cost of living will be much cheaper. People will be able to save more that they can use for other purposes. Okay, let's move on to more stable or reliable source of energy. Okay, all right. So if you have nuclear power plants, okay, let's use one word from here. Yeah, so for example, we can use reliable here. More stable source, we can use reliable right here. Okay, so nuclear power plants provide more steady, okay, and more reliable, okay, power or energy source. Instead of provide, nuclear power plants are a steady and more reliable energy source. What could be the reason for that? Okay, they because they are less prone, to what? What are they less prone to? Why do we get a lot of blackouts when we're relying on hydropower or when we're relying on a lot of other things? Why? Why are they more reliable? They're less prone to what? When they start operating, they're less prone to damage, maybe? Yeah, from what, from weather? Yeah, like, you know, an energy supply problem. So maybe defects, faults, okay, or what's that? Yeah, yeah, they're less prone to damage, they're less prone to defects, or a shortage or a power failure. Yes. All right. uh and what particular industries will benefit from this? Overheating. Sige, lagyan natin yon. Overheating. What particular industries will benefit sa 24 hours power? No problem. What businesses? Yes, the healthcare industry. What else? Give me other examples of manufacturing. Yes. All right. What else? What other industries? All right. If you don't have power interruptions, what particular industries will benefit? Yeah, the BPOs, no? Business process outsourcing, or IT companies, right? The IT industry. Yeah, and even the telecommunications. Okay, right, telecommunications, right? Or telecommunication industry, right? Or communications. Not really just telcos, right? So, but communications and broadcasting. Yeah, there you go. These are just some industries. Banking industry, yeah, the banking industry, or finance, right? So there you go. Industrial industry, that's manufacturing, like, you know, the factories and all that. Okay, banking, trade. So you're giving me a lot of examples. So you see all the words here, guys. You know all of these words, but you don't use them in your exam. You tend to use the more general terms instead, right? So there you go. Okay, so what will be the result of this? A more robust economy and a faster pace of growth, right? For countries. All right, so there you go. See, we are done with the planning portion. Let me just zoom this out so you can see the entire plan. Can you see? This is actually what we have planned for so far. And this is a very critical, very difficult question to answer. This is actually what we have come up with so far, right? And it's actually pretty good, I think. So are you ready to write? Okay, so give me a heart if you're ready to write. We're going to start writing, okay? I'm just going to make this quick. I know a lot of people here have other obligations to and maybe a lot of other commitments to attend to. So I'm just gonna make this quick, right? So let's start writing, guys. It's already 10:07. Is it 10:07? Yes, 10:07. We start at 10:07. We're going to write our introduction, and our introduction is just basically a paraphrase version of our task description. So this is the task description. What we need to do is to just paraphrase that and write something very close. So some people say there are several individuals who claim that the most ideal source of energy for countries around the world. Oh, sorry, around the world is nuclear. Okay. While there are people who are apprehensive or who might oppose this view strongly, I hold the same belief. All right, or you can actually just keep it simple, right? You can just actually say I also hold the same view. There you go. All right, so there you have it. You have your introduction written in 1 minute. We're now going to move on to the next paragraph, which is our first body paragraph. We have already planned that out, and this is what we're going to be writing in this portion of our essay. All right, so it's this one. The primary reason behind nuclear energy being the best, okay, energy source in all the nations around the globe is that it generates energy, or the power that the power it produces, or is it's a more lower energy cost, maybe it's a more cost effective option compared to other sources or other power other sources of power. All right, so let's just rephrase this a little because its energy source right here is the best okay way to produce energy, right? The primary reason behind nuclear energy, behind the belief, okay, the belief that nuclear energy is the best way to produce or nuclear power plants, or investing in nuclear power plants. Okay, so let's rephrase. Investing in nuclear power plants is the best way, is the best option, okay, in order for countries to produce energy is okay, right, that it is a more cost-effective option, right? Why is this wrong? Okay, compared to other sources of power, including coal, solar, and hydroelectric. Okay, nuclear power plants are able to generate an abundant supply of energy, okay, such as the case in several countries or several nations, including Japan, Finland, Ukraine, the USA, and South Korea, which are all able to reduce the power costs that are shouldered by the consumers, making the consumers, okay, because of their nuclear, developed nuclear power plants, okay, or as they rely on nuclear power plants. I'll just rephrase this later, okay. As a result, the cost of living in these places are significant, is significantly reduced, and people are able to save more money that they can use for other purposes. Okay, there you go. Whew, that was very difficult for me to write. Let's move on to the next paragraph. We're going to move on to stable. I'm going to use a transitional device. Perhaps you can use furthermore. Okay, furthermore, okay. Nuclear energy or nuclear technology has now is now offering a more stable source of more stable energy source, or not really nuclear technology, but with the recent advancements in nuclear technology, countries are now able, right? Countries are now able to offer a more stable energy source that can meet the ever-growing demands of the world, okay? Nuclear power plants are a steady and more reliable energy source, or source of energy, because they're less prone to damage, defects, overheating, shortage, or failure. Okay, This in turn, okay, this stability, stability, okay, stability in power generation, in turn benefits, okay, many industries, including that of healthcare, business process outsourcing, manufacturing, IT, communications and broadcasting, finance, and finance, or trade, and banking, or let's put or banking. Okay. The end result of which is a more robust economy for nations worldwide and a faster pace of growth that can ultimately lead to a higher standard of living for the population. We're done. In conclusion, we're just going to end this. Although many are against the use of nuclear technology, okay, in sourcing or harnessing power for countries, I believe that moving forward, countries should adopt this innovation in order to address the power needs of the public and also offer energy at a much lower cost. Now, this is just one sentence, but I'm going to just make it a couple of sentences. Moving forward, countries should adopt this innovation, okay, in order to address the power needs of the public and also offer energy at a much lower cost. I think this is okay. Let's just end this entire thing. It's 10:16 now. So we spent roughly 9 minutes. Did I get that right? 9 minutes? Yeah, right. We spent 9 minutes writing this entire essay. So 9 minutes, right? Now I'm just gonna very quickly edit. I'm sorry, guys. I need to edit this. So this is so far 302 words. All right. And it's completed in 9 minutes. I'm just going to edit. There are some stray spelling errors. So I'm just gonna, the ultimate, I can actually, the ultimate. All right. So I'm gonna read through this entire thing and edit. Okay. So this is our writing task to sample. There are several individuals who claim that the most ideal source of energy for countries around the world is nuclear. I also hold the same view. Okay. All right. Now, let me just make this a little better. Although many, despite, okay, the apprehension of the public, okay, right, on the use of nuclear technology for power generation, power production, there are several individuals who claim that the most ideal source of energy for countries around the world is nuclear. I also hold the same view. The primary reason behind the belief that investing in nuclear power plants is the best option in order for countries to produce energy is that it is a more cost-effective option compared to other sources of power, including coal, solar, and hydroelectric. Nuclear power plants are able to generate an abundant supply of energy, such as allowing electric companies, all right, electric companies to lower the cost of electricity, right? Such is the case in several nations, including Japan, Finland, Ukraine, the USA, and South Korea, which are all able to reduce the power costs that are shouldered by the consumers because of their well-developed nuclear power plants. As a result, the cost of living in these places is significantly reduced and people are able to save more money that they can use for other purposes. All right. Okay, let's move on to the next paragraph. Furthermore, with the recent advancements in nuclear technology, not advancements, but advances. With the recent advances in nuclear technology, countries, let's put a comma right there, are now able to offer a more stable energy source that can meet the ever-growing demands of the world. Nuclear power plants are a steady and more reliable source of energy because they are less prone to damage, defects, overheating, shortage, or failure, which are the primary cause of power interruptions, right? In many places, all right? This stability in power generation in turn benefits many industries, including that of healthcare, business process outsourcing, manufacturing, IT. Let's change IT into information technology, communications and broadcasting, and finance, trade, or banking. The ultimate result of which is a more robust economy for nations worldwide and a faster pace of growth that can ultimately, the result na lang nito. The result of which is a more robust economy will ultimately lead to a higher standard of living for the population. In conclusion, although many are against the use of nuclear technology in harnessing power for countries, I believe that moving forward, countries, I repeated the word countries, so I would change that into nations, should adopt this innovation in order to address the power needs of the public and also offer energy at a much lower cost. Okay, now I have already finished this entire thing. Yes, there's a word counter at the bottom of your screen when you're taking the computer delivered exam. This is 337 words. Let's look at it from afar so that you will see the entire sample. All right, electronic, why is this wrong? Okay, so I'm just going to, this is just basically like stylistic error. So I'm just going to ignore all of these errors in order and everything, right? So there you go. That's the final sample for IELTS writing task 2. Did you like it? Okay, so let me know. I'm just looking at the comments on Facebook. I'm sorry I wasn't able to answer all of the questions because I was writing. Okay, so I was focused on writing. So what do you think about our writing sample for today, right? Sir Brian, what if you don't have much knowledge about the topic? I don't really think that will happen if you review, because in the first place, you know, most of these are from you. So what I did was just to weave all of your arguments together. So if you can write about nuclear technology, which is, by the way, one of the most difficult questions that come out in the examination, what holds you back from writing about the simpler and more relatable topic in the test? I think it's just a matter of perspective. Some people feel that their arguments are insufficient or their arguments are too shallow, but in reality, they're enough for you to be able to compose a really good essay. So yeah, just give it your best shot. You don't really have to be an expert about the topic, but you have to have enough arguments that you can elaborate so that you'll be able to write at least a 250 word essay and respond to the question. Okay? Right. Oy, wag yung i-wish na lumabas ito sa exam nyo because mahirap itong question na to. Right? Okay, so there you go. How about the people from we have over 300 we have over 300 viewers, okay, on Facebook. Thank you so much for sticking around till the end of this session, right? Hopefully you learned something. Sir, okay lang ba kahit walang binigay na disadvantage? Yes, because it's one-sided. If it's, do you agree or disagree, give your opinion. You just have to write your introduction plus your stand and then write about your reasons and then write your conclusion. You don't need to talk about the opposite view anymore if it's a one-sided essay that you're expected to write, okay? All right. So, by the way, guys, the editing time was right about mga 5 minutes siguro. So if we're going to factor everything in, maybe we spent like 5 to 7 minutes planning and then 5 minutes editing and then 9 minutes writing. So all in all, mga 20 minutes lang. So we still have 20 minutes left for us to just review the entire thing and enjoy, resting while all of your other co-test takers are scrambling for what to write. Efficiency in writing happens when you have a good plan. So more than taking a photo of this sample that I have written for you, it is also equally important for you to take a photo of this, a screenshot of this one. This is our outline, and I think this is the most important thing that you should learn how to compose. Because if you are not able to write a good plan, usually you will struggle with what to write. Okay, so here's a question from Chris. Thank you, sir. Galing. Seems easy tingnan, ha? Pero if ako tinanong, wala eh. Hindi naman. Your ideas again are the ones that I used. I didn't actually invent my own. I actually just weaved. I just kind of like, put everything together, and yeah, these are all your arguments. So I don't really think you're incapable. So I just put them all together, right? Is it fine to have 3 arguments? Of course, it's fine. If you can write more, why not? No, but you also have to take into consideration the amount of time that you're spending, okay? Worth watching, Sir Brian. I've learned how to write as well as how to speak, how to watch more lives in the future. Okay, thank you so much, Melody, for joining me as well. Okay. Right. Honestly, po, the moment I saw nuclear energy, my mind went blank. So sometimes it's a matter of you thinking that the question is so big for you to respond to. You have to change your mindset and feel that you're capable of responding to the questions and have more confidence, right? Again, the ideas that you're able to generate, no matter how shallow they are, they're still good. Okay? Meron po bang binibigay na scratch paper sa writing? Wala, but you can actually use the question paper. That's where you can write your plan. If you're taking the computer delivered exam, there will be a sheet of paper that contains your personal information and your login details. That's where you can write your plan as well. Can you show us the second part, sir? Yes, you can take a picture of the sample that we have composed. Okay. Ignore. Okay, so yeah, right. So that's how you write for IELTS writing task 2. Questions, guys, from you guys. I hope that this was a very informative session. And I really loved interacting with you guys. Marami tayong viewers, no? Over 200 viewers, and then during the peak, mga 350 yata yung nanood. Thank you so much for supporting us. And if you like more sessions like this, keep on following IFNG. We usually hold live sessions here for free. And if you want naman to enroll in our programs, you can actually join us at 9.09 or IELTS Review and Tutorial Center. You can search us on Facebook and just inquire about our services, just in case you loved this performance. And I hope that you would also share this with your friends. Yung replay man lang, no, sayang. This is actually a free session, so they'll learn a lot on how to compose really good essays for the examination. You can share this with them after this live session. It's hopefully very helpful for you guys. Right, so there you go. Will there be a replay daw, IFNG? Oh yes, certainly. It will be uploaded on IFNG's page, so that you can see this again and you can rewatch how we kasi medyo mabilis, no? How we wrote the entire thing. You can actually slow it down maybe and watch it in snippets so that you'll and you can pause in between, no, to understand how things are composed. Right. So there you go, guys. Thank you so much for having me tonight. And admin, how was it? Okay naman. Thank you
Yes,
so much.
who wouldn't love your presentation, sir? So I think every time na you're back in IFNG, you are the most viewed. That's here.
Oo nga, dami nating viewers for today. Thank you po sa lahat na nag-support.
According to the comments, you are so fresh.
Oh, thank you. Thank you sa mga nagsabing presyo. Gabi na, guys. Gabi na.
Gabi na,
Oh.
fresh pa din. So
Gabi
yes,
na fresh pa rin.
like what I'm always saying sa mga members, writing, you really need a IELTS expert. So if you're impressed with Sir Brian, of course, he's very impressive. So you can contact them directly on their Facebook, 9.09er. And then you can watch this again because this remain on our Facebook page, and we will upload this on our YouTube as well. So for everyone, to Sir Irvin and Sir Brian, thank you so much, Niner. So contact them. Okay.
See you guys again next time. Kapag may live uli ako dito, watch lang kayo dito sa IFNG and then invite your friends over to join as well.
One last thing.
Yes,
to
sure.
be a member or to be added in our GC, like for our speaking group, just like our page and send us direct message so we can send you the link. Thank you so much, Sir Brian, and to everyone.
Yes,
Bye.
thank you so
Take care.
much, sir. Good night from the Philippines. Have a nice day, guys. Bye.